Welcome to Enlightened Evolution.
I'm Cay.
And I'm Christina.
We're here to discuss the ebb and flow of our soul's healing and transformation through self-reflection, choosing intentionally, honoring thyself, and following your inner guide.
Thank you for joining this safe space with us.
Good morning and welcome to Enlightened Evolution with Cay and Christina. This week we are talking about codependency. I'm actually surprised we haven't talked about this topic yet because I have been a very codependent person in my life. So
I have too.
I'm ready to talk about it. How are you doing today, Cay?
I've been bitching to you all morning. This is the third episode we filmed, and I've just been going the fuck off about the establishment I work at. And I'm not sorry. I'm sorry that you've had to hear me, but I'm not sorry about the way I feel about them.
Yeah.
All the way from parking to
anything and everything.
To sick days we don't take, all of it. I love my coworkers with all my heart. I do love my coworkers, but I don't love the establishment I work for because they don't give a fuck. So,
yeah.
Anyways, in lighter news, brighter news, I'll be positive for the rest of the day. Yes, maybe.
You don't have to. I mean, continue. Release until you feel like you've released enough. Yeah. Oh, I meant to tell you something funny about the CoStar app the other day.
Oh, girl, do you know? I forgot to tell you. Go ahead, because I forgot to tell you
that
too.
Jordan had an impromptu hockey practice, and I typically go to all of his games. And I was like, I don't really need to go to practice. And then CoStar pops up, and his practice wasn't until 8:30 at night. CoStar pops up and it says, prioritize your sleep. And I was like, I can't go to your practice. My horoscope app says I need to prioritize my sleep.
That is so
I think he was
funny.
sad.
Oh,
I didn't go and I got great sleep.
Did you really? That's nice.
Yeah.
I love this app. Sometimes I'll screenshot it. And do you know, because we're friends on there, that said something the other, huh?
We can, it does a compatibility thing.
Yes, but it said something about you specifically the other day. I don't know, but I do. I recommend everyone get this CoStar app.
I love it because I don't ever remember where all my placements are, and so I always go to it when I'm seeing a TikTok on if your Mercury is in blah blah blah. I'm like, I gotta look.
Do you pay for it?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Have you seen your chart?
I don't know.
On there? It's in one of the, for whatever reason, my phone does not want to recognize my face today.
It's funny.
It's at the top. It's under chart. If you're on you, if you click you and then chart at the top.
Oh, I love that. Where's Venus at? What's your Venus in?
We are why can't I find it? Gemini.
Same.
Really?
We crazy.
Oh yeah.
Which hence codependency.
Yeah. So let's get into the definition of codependency. So it is a behavioral and emotional condition in which individuals become overly reliant on others for their self-worth, validation, and identity. So it's not that you're relying on someone else to care for you, but you're relying on them for your own internal well-being. People that are codependent often prioritize others' needs and desires above their own, and sometimes at the detriment of their own well-being. And I was codependent my whole life. I've only in recent years been healing from it. And at that time when I was in it, I felt like, oh, I'm being so selfless. I'm doing for others. I'm, putting everyone else's needs above mine. And people can think that that's selfless, but in what's truly happening, and you don't realize it, and I didn't realize it was happening, is you're actually being manipulative. You're manipulating the outcome of these relationships by feeding them everything they want and need in hopes that they will treat you a certain way. in hopes that they will love you. And I only recently realized that in therapy, and I was like, oh. So actually, it was
Mhm.
a selfish act I was doing, even though it doesn't seem like it. It's also often
Yes.
associated with anxious attachment style, which
Yeah,
I also
for sure.
have.
Yeah. I think I didn't have a codependent relationship with my parents, but I know a lot of the times it can develop from early experiences and growing like early experience in your childhood growing up where your emotional needs weren't met or those roles were
Mhm.
reversed. I know a lot of children that have to tend to their parents' emotional wounds and keep them happy. And in adulthood, this carries into patterns into your emotional or your romantic relationships, leading to a dynamic where one person overly relies on the other person for validation, like their purpose, their identity. Do you feel like that's what you were doing in your romantic
Oh, yeah.
relationship?
I was, and I totally was not cognizant of it. I didn't realize
Mhm.
I was codependent until around year 2017, 2018-ish when I read the book I'm Fine and Other Lies by Whitney Cummings. She's a comedian. I don't know what possessed me to read her book, but she goes through her life story in it, and she talks about her own struggles with codependency, and she was kind of like, explaining how codependency manifested in her life, and I was like, "Oh, that's what I'm doing."
Yeah.
But and I think mine definitely probably stemmed from just an innate wanting to be loved by, between bullying in school and between, the abuse with my mother. Like, I just
Mhm.
wanted someone to love me. And I was constantly responsible for her emotional state. And I felt like I was. I felt like if I just did everything right, then she will be nice and she'll be happy. And I carried that on with me into all of my relationships.
Yeah. For sure. I think that for people that don't are questioning if they're codependent or not codependent, or maybe someone's codependent on them, an intense need for approval or validation that you rely on your partner to feel worthy or loved, or they rely on you constantly. It's like you mentioned, like it's an anxious attachment, like, and it's like, what there has to be some type of balance too for positive validation of like,
Mhm.
"Hey," do you get asked every single day by your partner, "Hey, is something wrong? What's going on? Like, you haven't talked to me much today." And then you have to give them feedback like, "Nothing's wrong. I'm here. I'm gonna be home later. Like, I love you." Like, whatever the case may be. And it just seems like if that was an everyday thing, I've been in relationships like that where somebody had a very anxious attachment style and it's like it's exhausting. So you are the source for their security when really
Right.
they need to find that within themselves. Difficulty in setting boundaries. You're saying yes to things that you don't want to do. I know in my last relationship, we just filmed Rest and Recharge on the I don't even know what the fuck I was doing. Like, I would get out of work some days, even after working like straight 4-day 12s in a row, and like he would
Mm.
be at my house, or I would the next morning like get up and go straight to his house. It's like, and I did not prioritize my rest. I didn't prioritize my responsibilities or recharging or any of that. So it was like he needed me to be there or he was going to be upset, and I never set the boundary of like, "No, like, I need a whole day just to myself."
Oh, yeah. And I've noticed this absolutely in romantic relationships. My codependency spilled into all of my relationships. With
Mhm.
friendships, I would never say no to friends if they needed something from me, if they needed me to go do something, if they wanted to plan a vacation. Like, I was saying yes, 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 never saying no. Absolutely in relationships. And you even you lose your identity as a
Yes.
codependent person because you absorb everything that the person you are codependent on. In my last marriage, I realized how much I absorbed the things he liked to do.
Mhm.
And I didn't even like it wasn't even that he was asking me to take over those things. I just did it in the hopes of pleasing him. Like everything in our house was baseball and tigers. Our wedding was on a baseball field with tigers colors. Not because I mean, the tigers are cool. I fuck with them, but
Right.
like that would if I would have been thinking about myself and like what I actually like and want, that would not have been the wedding I would have chosen for myself. The wedding I had with my husband, Jordan, that was exactly from what I want and what I would want for myself.
Yeah. So you're like over functioning in a relationship and you feel responsible for making them happy or fixing their problems, and it's you're abandoning yourself when you overfunction. And so I feel that for sure. Like neglecting my own needs just to make sure that I show up for them. Um Even when it comes to like, okay, I don't know, maybe this is going in the wrong direction, but there's something that's been on my mind. I need to bring this up to you. And they completely divert. And now it's all about them. Like what you said now just kind of upset me. Why don't you focus on, the things that you do actually that are similar to this? And it's almost like your emotional needs are never met by that person
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, it sounds like in that situation, they kind of reinforce that, hey, you need to abandon your own needs because mine are more important than yours.
Yeah.
You
And the
may, I mean, a lot of it, go ahead.
I was just going to say another thing I have on this list is fear of abandonment when you're in codependent
Yeah.
relationships. You feel anxious or panicked, or just the thought of your partner leaving. It's almost like that's what codependency and addiction kind of fall like hand in hand. And you're like addicted to this person. They're like a lifeline for you. You're so heavily attached to them that if you feel like they were to leave, it would be like ripping your arm off, literally.
Yeah.
It's it's just so
It can be
unhealthy.
very extreme. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, this falls on a spectrum. Yes.
there's varying degrees of codependency. And I've experienced it differently in different
Mhm.
relationships. And the low self-esteem part of it wasn't something back then that like if you would have asked me, do you feel like you have low self-esteem? I would have probably said no, like I think I'm great, whatever. But my actions were saying differently. I was constant
Yes.
relying on others for validation. I was even like, social media posting in hopes of that people will like it so that I know that maybe I look cute today or whatever.
Mhm.
It's really the intention behind it. And I've talked before about like how I would dress for others. Like literally every time I would get dressed, I would think, okay, how are others going to perceive me today? Am I going to meet the expectations of the people that I'm around or whatever?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
like
it goes.
your self-worth is like tied to other people's opinions of you. And more so like your for me it was like my partner. I know you and I have talked about in the past like I will no longer ask a man's opinion about what I should be wearing or how I should do my hair. Or do you like I would appreciate if you tell me I'm beautiful after I spent,
Yeah.
however long getting ready, but I really don't need your opinion on my wardrobe.
No. Like if you think I should be wearing something differently or dressing differently or
Mhm.
how I did my hair, you can keep that to yourself.
Yeah, like I just like I think I told you this the other day. I'm like on this dating app and there's one guy I met that I really like, and then I was going to go on this other date with this other guy, which I've decided not to, but he mentioned to like, "Oh, and just so you know, let's dress casual. I want you to be able to be like warm and cozy." And I said back to him, I said, "Well, I don't expect it to warm up until about June. And it just turned me off completely. It's like,
Yeah.
what is casual to you and what's casual to me could be on completely opposite. And
Right.
I like I'm kind of bougie. Like I like to dress, so
Right. I
and
don't go
especially
out much, so when I do, I'm gonna be cute if
yeah,
I
and
wanna be.
so it's like, oh, it was just kind of a turn off, even if he was trying to be polite. Maybe I'm being too hard on the man, but I'm not. Yeah, now it's just like I don't even.
I know that, and we talked about that. That's a hard one
Mhm.
because, like I said, he could have been, like, trying to take the mental labor off of you of, like, "Hey, I'm gonna set everything up. This is what to expect," but you don't know that person yet, so it was kind of a weird conversation to have, not
Yeah.
ever meeting and, like, knowing each other's tone, because it also comes across kinda controlling, so
Yeah, and we all know that, like, I'm hyper vigilant when it
yeah.
comes to comments like that. So and it was funny because me and this other guy had the conversation, the one that I really like, it's just like, we didn't start off by, like, saying, like, a bunch of things that we want or expect. We're both have the same mindset of, "Let's just sit back and just observe and kinda watch what your behavior is and watch who you are," and I like
Yeah.
that a lot better because I don't when you start not, like, neglecting your own needs to prioritize your partner, and it's something that I think slowly happens, you lose so much
Yeah.
touch with your own goals, your own desires, if you're constantly wondering, like, "Are they gonna be comfortable with this?" Like, "Is it gonna upset them if I have this on today?" Or, "If I wanna go hang out with my friends today and have a girls' day instead of, like, spending the day with them," like, when you slowly start abandoning yourself, that's codependency, and
Mhm.
I'm not saying all codependents, like, are narcissists, but I do feel like it's usually do you feel like it's usually, like, one person that's the codependent one or both of them, or, like, the other person, like, develops the codependency because of the initial codependent person?
I think it can be both. It can, just be the one-sided, like, my last marriage, I feel like I was definitely the codependent one, he was not, but I've also been in a relationship where we just fed off each other and we just
Mhm.
kept amping up, and
Yeah.
so I think it can really go either way for sure, and you can bring it out of someone maybe that didn't experience that before. Sometimes the codependent person is so unnerving because you're constantly checking in for validation. So I watched a
Mhm.
video on TikTok of what it might look like in a relationship. Maybe your partner says, "Hey, I want to go hang out with my friends. We're going to go get a beer or whatever." And then that codependent person starts to internalize, "Well, why didn't you invite me?" Or "You don't want to hang out with me," or all these things start snowballing, and then they might make some passive aggressive remark like, "Oh, I guess I'll just be myself then," which starts this fight and argument, and it can snowball. And some people, a person that's strong in themselves is not going to react and engage in that conversation, but someone who also, may have some feelings around, or maybe be less emotionally mature, may engage in that back and forth. I definitely have had those conversations in the past. I think now where I say I'm a healing from codependency. It's not, like, completely gone, but
Mhm.
I'm at least mindful of it now. So, I'll notice there's times when Jordan gets distant and he's in his head and not as engaged as he normally is, and for me, that starts to make me think, "Oh, what's going on? Why is he not engaged the way he normally is?" And then I see that it starts to make me feel very deeply about my own self-worth, and that's when I'm like, "Oh, no. What's going on in his head or wherever he's got going on has nothing to do with me, and until he's ready to have a conversation about it, like, I can't think that it's something I did wrong, because that's
Right.
immediately where my head would go, is like, "Oh, what did I do wrong?" But
Yeah.
now I'm more emotionally mature and I have a conversation with him and I say, "Hey, I noticed that you're being distant. What's going on? Are you okay? Is there anything you need to talk about with me?" And it's not like you said, it's not like daily, because it doesn't happen daily, but it's like every once in a while. We've had some losses this year. Like, there's been a lot of heavy stuff, and that's what it's been, is like, just kind of a little, depression and introspection. But that's really where the emotional intelligence comes in, of like
Mhm.
first recognizing it in yourself and then having the wherewithal to not be reactive, and because you kind of project on the other person when you're codependent. You're like, oh, well, they don't love me anymore. They don't care about me. And you really
Yeah.
have to have a inner dialogue.
Yeah, it's like this emotional enmeshment, like your emotions are completely dependent on your partner's mood or behavior. And now, I don't know. I haven't been in a relationship in so long. I don't know how I'm really going to react when I do get in a relationship and do like have this attachment with somebody, but now I would be like immediately no.
Hmm.
With the just with I mean, obviously Jordan's great, but you mentioned past relationships and it's just like
Hmm.
it's not fair to do that to your partner. Like, I wanna go out with
No,
my
it's
friends, and, "Oh, no, like, what do you mean you wanna go with your friends?" And that very passive aggressiveness, that being passive aggressive is so, like, whiny and bitchy and feminine to me. It's a complete turn off when a man starts to be it's just, like, gross to me when they start to be
it is. I mean, it's gross when anyone does it because
I
it's
know,
like, say what you mean.
and yeah, please do. Please communicate that because it's just a major turn off. I'm sorry, I'm getting flashbacks.
Oh, I didn't mean for this to be triggering.
It's okay.
Um,
What do you think some of
I
these with go ahead.
I was just going to talk about some kind of ways to recognize and start to heal from it.
What can the effects be? I have that's
Oh
good. I
yeah,
have effects of it too. Like, it created
yeah,
like, being in a codependent relationship, maybe you can relate, created, like, chronic anxiety and stress. I don't know if
yep,
you did you just see that cat jump across me like that?
yeah. I was hoping that was your cat. I only like saw a blink of it, and I was like, oh, what was that?
Oh, he is something else. I didn't mean for him to sneak in my room. I'm sorry, everybody. Just constantly worry about your partner's emotions or your actions, and just it left me in such this heightened state all the time. I lost, like, 20 pounds. My
Yeah.
hair was falling out. It was, like, every single thing I did, it's like, "What am I doing wrong?" "Am I doing something wrong? Are they gonna be upset about it?" Like, I wanna please them. I wanna be good enough today. But then you develop, like, resentment. Like, do you remember, like, developing, like, this resentment
Oh
towards
yeah,
them just because you were
yeah.
giving so much of yourself and not receiving anything in return? Our relationship was it was different. So, like, he provided, like, a lot of, like, physical things, like, financial, so I was left so emotionally neglected, because he
Hmm.
thought he made up for it in, like, financial ways. And so I started harboring resentment for him because I just didn't receive that, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, it'll truly ruin your relationships. And it definitely did for me, romantic relationships. Even though
Mhm.
I was the one to end them, I I felt that resentment. I was like, "Okay, I'm doing everything for you. I'm managing your emotions. I'm keeping you happy. I'm keeping the house together. I'm keeping everything together for you. And what are you doing?" And I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like I should have communicated those things much earlier in the
Mhm.
relationship. Yes, I was valid for I didn't have a partner that was doing their part. But I also didn't have the emotional intelligence to have those conversations
Yeah.
that needed to be had, which I mean, could they have possibly saved the relationship? I don't know. I'm glad that relationship didn't work out, but
Right.
I wasn't doing my part to communicate my needs and to ask for my needs to be met, or even to mention what my needs are at times. And when I did, it was usually an explosion. So that's a lot of times what happens for codependent
Mhm.
people is they manage everyone else's emotions, and then they finally realize like nobody gives a fuck about me and then they blow up, and it's just a very toxic relationship.
For sure. It's like you get that burnout because you're always the fixer and you're always the caretaker. It's almost like, and this could go either way for a man or a woman. It's like you're the parent of that other person in the relationship. How are you even turned on by them anymore? I know a lot of things because I follow mostly content that supports women because I'm a woman and I don't relate to the way men think and behave, only how I've been affected by them. It's like some things, yeah, maybe you should communicate like your needs, but I feel like some things are so like the bare minimum and things that
Right.
adults should be doing for themselves, man or woman. That if your partner doesn't take initiative for that, how like you obviously took care of yourself before I met you. Like
Why can't you do it now?
like they call it like what was it? Weaponized incompetence.
Yes.
So I'm very mindful of that now, ever going into another relationship. It's like, if I work full time and you're not taking care of me 100%, you're going to do your own laundry and pick up after yourself and help with the cleaning or the animals or the kids or whatever's going to be going on, because that should not, all the weight of life should not fall onto my shoulders.
No. And I saw something else that said that people that have a codependency, they typically will seek out partners that allow them to kind of take over everything. And that was something I
Mhm.
really had to reflect on and be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
you kind of seek out these partners that need you, that you feel like you can
Yes.
take care of. They need you for some reason or whatever." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Damn."
I Same, because I am a mom and I am a nurse, so I'm in like this role of managing and prioritizing and taking charge all day long, and things usually go how I want them to go all day long. I don't want to have to do that for another adult,
And you shouldn't have to.
and I'm not going to. You lose your identity, you get depressed. I think breaking that cycle of codependency does start with self-awareness, like you said.
Yeah. First thing, you got to recognize the patterns in yourself. For me, it was hearing someone else share their story and being like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm actually doing all those things. So maybe today you've realized, hey, I'm codependent.
Yeah, or they're codependent. But I think it's like
hmm
you you become just molded with that person, and by the time you realize it, it's like it's a mess, and it's like, who's at fault? Well, if you keep choosing it and you're unhappy, you're only responsible for yourself and your own happiness. So a lot of times it's like it's hard to press that reset button because you get in these patterns within your relationship. With my experience, the relationship has always had to end.
Yeah. That's been my experience as well. I think if it's going to work, it's going to take both partners being truly interested in making a change and truly like seeing their own faults, and that's really hard to reach in a
Mhm.
relationship. Usually it's one party or the other that's like, okay, we really need to fix this, and then the other one may reluctantly participate, but really deep down they don't think anything's wrong or they're not willing to change. It's hard. I haven't seen it in my own life work out. I think it's possible. I think anything's
Same.
possible.
When I started setting boundaries, because as you know, like, I was with that person, and then we broke up for some time, and then we reconnected. But when I already developed my self-awareness and then I started setting boundaries with him, the relationship ended very quickly
hmm
the second time around. And codependent people do not like for you to set boundaries with them. They don't like you to be
no.
emotionally stable and have self-respect and tell them that what they're doing is hurting you and that their behavior is wrong. They won't be able to handle it. I just when I started, like, reconnecting with my own needs, and for me, it was more so, I'm not going to incorporate my kids in our relationship this time around until we're at a very secure place. That was very triggering for him, and he wasn't able to handle that boundary, and so that was pretty much the beginning of the end of the second time around. So it just depends, but that wasn't something I was willing to budge on.
Yeah.
Seek professional help. I've been going to therapy, EMDR therapy, love it. Gonna continue doing that. It has helped me in many ways. Because sometimes
Improve your sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say, like, an outside, unbiased perspective from a professional
Mhm.
that's been a game changer for me. I wish that I would have gotten to therapy, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Same. Another thing you can do is start improving your self-esteem, and that can be hard when you've always relied on external validation.
Mhm.
You've really got to start to have that self-talk within yourself of, I am worthy, I am lovable, I deserve love, and just start to find different ways. I when I started doing this, I had sticky notes on my mirrors of like,
Aw.
you are loved, and just little motivational things for
Mhm.
myself. Do what you got to do. I've seen those videos of like the little girls with their mom like staring in the mirror and they're like, I am strong and I am worthy, and I just love that.
I do
Do that for
too.
yourself.
Yeah, and try to it's hard when you get in these codependent cycles with people because it doesn't just have to be a romantic relationship.
Mhm.
I watched my grandmother have codependent relationships with some of her kids. And so fostering
Mhm.
healthy communication in a gentle way can be very difficult for people because once you start practicing expressing yourself in a very calm, direct manner, it's going to catch that other person off guard. They're not used to this emotional
Oh yeah.
new emotional stability that you have for yourself and so they can get used to it, after a while they will get used to it. But you're not responsible for that other person's emotions either, and it's very hard to not rise to their level of, like, incompetence when you're
Mhm.
trying to stay grounded. It's like when people will be like, "I match energies." It's like, "No, maintain your own."
No. Yeah. Protect your energy. I
Yes.
don't want to match anyone's shitty energy.
Yeah.
um Also start focusing on developing independent, balanced relationships. I had a friendship with someone who was very codependent. And because we fed off of each other because she was more codependent in a way that she would not do anything independently. She could not go to the store by herself, would not go, like, I'll go take myself to lunch
Mhm.
and just have a grand old time. She could
Yeah.
never like go out to eat somewhere by herself. She always had to have someone with her. And I've kind of being a codependent person, I felt good like being that caregiver for her. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll go
Mhm.
with you to go do this and go run your errands and do that." But really that wasn't a healthy combination. So
Mhm.
I encourage people to start to do stuff independently. Find joy in things that you can do alone and that you feel safe, secure. If you want to hike, if you want to, engage in arts and crafts, if you want to go take yourself to lunch, take yourself to dinner, take yourself on a date. I think so many times people, and this kind of goes back to the lack mindset of thinking like, oh, you see like people post on social media this lavish date someone took them on. They went to this really nice restaurant that you've always wanted to go to. Take yourself. You literally can do that. Just go take
100%.
yourself.
Yeah, and if you're a parent, 'cause I codependency starts the mindsets start at a young age in development. Because I've been a single parent, I couldn't always be there for my kids, in every waking moment, and in a lot of ways, they've developed this independence. Even my daughter now, she'll be like, "Ma," she'll scream me to mom, it's like, "What?" 20 times, like, "What do you need?" And it's just like, I can't do this, I can't put this together." It's like this Lego set. It's just like, "Well, you need to, read the directions and try." I remember just this Christmas, I got her this brand new vanity for Christmas that she really wanted. I had worked Christmas Eve and Christmas, so I'm, exhausted. She's like, "I wanna put this together tonight." It's 10 o'clock on Christmas night. "Ma'am, I'm going to bed." I said, I will help you with that tomorrow, but like, I don't have the mental capacity for it tonight. Like, I just can't do it. And like, they understand that term. Like, when mom can't do something because of like, she's tired, she's not going to do it.
Mhm.
And this girl stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, putting together this vanity on Christmas. She had asked her her brother for some help, and I was like, "Good for you." You know, I am so like, I was like, "Oh
Using
my
your
god, I'm
resources.
so proud of you." And if anyone's ever put together like IKEA furniture, anything, I hate
It's
it.
frustrating.
I looked at
That
all the
will
pieces she took out of that fucking box, girl, like A through
was a
P
lot.
as in Paul. But no, not doing that. Not tonight.
That'll test any relationship putting furniture together.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know.
When I was doing research for this topic, I found that there is a Codependence Anonymous. I had no idea about this. I wish I would have known
Really?
about it back then. Maybe I should join it now. I don't know.
I didn't yeah,
But
girl, I
yeah,
didn't
that's
even
a resource
know.
available.
I didn't even know I was codependent, until I've did some evaluation of my past relationships that have all been pretty much terrible. Mm, not
It
all of them.
happens. We're learning, we're growing.
I know.
We've
Not
learned
all of
lessons from
them.
all of them.
Yeah, good lessons. And they weren't all every aspect of every relationship wasn't bad. I had a lot of great time with a lot of great guys, for sure.
Yeah.
Like my experiences that I've had, but some things are just intolerable. So if you're
I think the
codependent,
only thing
go ahead.
um I think we've talked a lot about like recognizing codependency in yourself and a little bit about recognizing it in your partner. Um, I don't know that I've ever really had a conversation with a partner about it or recognized it. But like you mentioned, it's that same thing of setting boundaries. So if you recognize that your partner places all that on you and you're carrying the burden of all of their self-worth and their self-esteem, that's a lot for someone to carry. And I think you have to have that conversation with them of,
Mhm.
you're amazing. I love you so much. And I want you to feel in yourself the way I feel about you. And I want you to find that source from within yourself of, that you are worthy and that you are lovable so that you never lack it and it's always with you.
Yeah. And I feel for guys that are insecure because you can't lead in a healthy masculine way when you're an insecure male in like a heterosexual relationship with a woman. There's this app that I downloaded the other day. It's called T, and it's only for women. Did I tell you about this?
Yes. But
And
share with the group.
I will. So you take a little selfie of yourself to prove that you're a woman. They don't post it. You use an anonymous name, and it's for women to post men that they've dated or that they're going to go on a date with, and it's like, hey, have you seen this man before? Or hey, I've dated this guy. Stay away from him. He's married and has two girlfriends and slapped me or something. So
Mhm.
but they do like polls, and there was a poll the other day on there that said, I just started dating this guy not too long ago. We're exclusive now. And he said that he needs me. Is this cute or is this a red flag? And my instant
Mm.
reaction was like, red flag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I need anybody. I feel like I've gotten so good at just letting go of the attachments, um, and setting the boundaries that I mean, I don't need anybody. I certainly don't need
Yeah.
you. I need to be
I
respected and
appreciate
loved.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of things that I need and I require, but I feel for people like that because there was a point in my life where I have dated, and it's just like breaking up with somebody is just like devastating. And it's like
Yeah.
it's such an addiction, and like addicted to a person, and you did like need them to a point of feeling secure. but another human being
Mhm.
should not be your source of love and security and worthiness. It's something that you have to create within yourself, and it takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of inner work, and it's something that I still work on daily.
Yep. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's a process for sure,
Mhm.
and you just gotta be committed to that process because it's loving yourself is one of the best things you can work on.
It is, but it's easy doing all these things. Like, right now, I'm not in a relationship, and I'm not really, like, super involved with anybody, so I don't have triggers showing up in my life right
Mhm.
now, and it's I'm wondering how well I will do getting, like, deeper involved with somebody and getting closer, and, like, as relationships progress, how much I'll still be able to show up for myself and set those boundaries even because 'cause I've been, like, do you find yourself being, like, afraid to set boundaries? Like, "Oh, if I say this, that I don't wanna go tonight," or, "Hey, can you do a load of laundry for me? I don't have time." Like, "No, actually, I don't have time either." Like, do you find yourself feeling, like, afraid that they're gonna be upset with you for setting that boundary? Because that's the initial trigger for me is, like, "Oh, if I say no and I set a
Absolutely.
boundary, I'm gonna be in trouble." Like, that's the thing, like, I'll be in trouble if I don't show up for them how they need me to.
That's my instant feeling, and then I talk
Mhm.
myself through it of, "No, actually, you're just expressing your needs. This is a healthy thing to do."
Mhm.
But yes, that's my initial like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I don't wanna say it."
I know, it's such, like, a mind fuck too, because it's almost like, well, it's not gonna hurt me if I do this for this person, and I do like taking
Right,
care
I
of
could
people,
do this.
but is it
Mhm. I have the ability to do this, but should you?
right, but then is it are you oh, what is that word? Enabling their codependency.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
have you ever been and maybe not in the past, but now I think that I would be aware if somebody was codependent. Like, would you have the conversation of it, or would you just set the boundaries and see how they react? Like, do you think it would be healthy? Like, if you were about to be in a new relationship, do you think it would be healthy
Mhm.
just for people listening, like, set the boundaries early and often, or have the
Yeah.
conversation about specific codependency?
I think you start with boundaries. You start with boundaries and see how they do with it, and then go from there. Because it's a lot to just diagnose the person that you're like, "Oh, you're codependent. I see that you're exhibiting codependent behavior."
Yeah, they may be,
Which
like, offended, you know?
yeah, but it could be more of like, "I see that you're relying on me a lot for your validation, and
Mhm.
give an example of like, when you do this, blah, 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 and I don't want your validation to come from me. That's
Yeah.
a burden for me, and I think that you should have uh,
Like
that validation
self-esteem to
within
do it
yourself."
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so start out with, like, setting a boundary, explain how their behavior affects you, and then give some positive reinforcement to them to, like,
Mhm.
that you believe in them to be able to show up for themselves in that way.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to start.
Yeah. Relationships are so hard and can be so messy because we're constantly our emotions well, some people's emotions are constantly fluctuating, especially if you're a female and you got a phase every month, your phases every month. We're all
Yeah,
just
and we're
doing our
just all
best.
humans.
Yeah.
We are not perfect, so keep
No.
that in mind.
No, we're not. Well, everybody, I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for listening to us. We appreciate you supporting us and spending time with us every week. You can find us wherever you can listen to us on all major platforms for podcast and YouTube and TikTok. And you ready?
Yep.
Oh, namaste.
Namaste.